Hello, my random viewers! Welcome to Randomly Offensive. Now, we all remember at some point with any franchise our first time watching or playing a certain franchise, and this creates amazing nostalgia. I mean, who doesn't remember going and seeing for the first time a Star Wars movie, or a Lord of the Rings movie, or a Harry Potter movie, or any other movie that just hits home with you when it comes to nostalgia? Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I mean, these things have amazing and tremendous places in our hearts, and not even to mention video games. The video game fandom loves nostalgia. I mean, hearing the Halo theme again, hearing the Assassin's Creed theme again, hearing the God of War theme again, these themes, these musics, and these characters bring us so much joy because we remember all the great times we had when we first grabbed the controller or first went into the theater and experienced an experience that is beyond explanation, beyond words. And when they actually captivate that feeling and return you to that experience and return you to that event, that life-changing moment, that is when nostalgia is done right. And that is what we will be talking about today. How to do nostalgia right. Why is it that some movies are able to make us leaving the theaters as hyped as an anime schoolgirl? Like, oh my god, it was so awesome! But then, on other occasions, we leave the theaters feeling like we were cheated and that the characters that we loved, that were nostalgic once before, have been disrespected and ruined for us for all eternity. Look at Han Solo as a great example. They ruined that character. He's no longer nostalgic. When you hear Han Solo, all you think about is the disrespect that they brought upon the name, right? And so, with that all being said, I am only going to focus on how to do nostalgia right. How to make us leave the theater as a little anime schoolgirl who just fell in love with 5 teenage boys, right? So, that's a messed up metaphor. I am apologizing for that one, but I'm going to leave it in because it's randomly offensive. So, I will only be talking about the good moments of nostalgia because there's so many videos out there just covering the bad. And I absolutely will when I start doing my How to Do Things Wrong series. But for now, I'm going to stick with How to Do Things Right. And nostalgia is an amazing way to enter the hype zone. And if you have not seen my last video of the hype zone, absolutely go check it out. It will allow some of the terminology that I will be using make more sense for you, and I will leave it in a link at the end of the video if you just want to skip forward, hit on that, and then just come on back. That is just fine with me. So, with that being said, let's get started with today's topic. It's just so exciting. It's nostalgic. Now, there are 3 ways that you can end up getting a hold of the nostalgia card, getting a hold of nostalgic characters or franchises, right? And so, the first way that you might end up finding yourself being a holder of a nostalgic character or franchise is by already being the creator. You created it and then you retired it years ago, whether you were retiring yourself or you're moving on to other things, and you decide to bring this franchise back, say 15 years later. If this franchise was loved and had a large fandom, you are going to create nostalgia, and people are going to come in to see their beloved characters one more time. The second way that you can create nostalgia is if you are the creator of a series and you've never stopped making the series, but there are certain beloved characters that you either dropped off, killed off, or retired, and now, years and years later, you decide to bring them back one way or the other. This is going to create nostalgia for those specific characters instead of your whole franchise, but it can still work very, very well. Now, the third way is the most common way of lately. How Disney has bought Star Wars, Disney has bought Jurassic Park, so on and so forth. When you get a hold of someone else's work that is already nostalgic, people love this work and they're excited that it's going to come back, but you're not the previous owner. You bought it for the mere premise that it is nostalgic. And anyone that says that they're not buying a amazing piece of art that has been dead for years, if anyone says they have not bought it for nostalgia purposes and they have not bought it to use a nostalgia card, they are full of shit. They're lying. You're buying it because you're nostalgic yourself, and you're going to buy it because you want to cash in on someone else's work, which is not a bad thing. If you're passionate about something and you want to make money, freaking do it, dude. It's a good thing to do because it allows the fans to see beloved characters once more. Unfortunately, Oftentimes when someone buys a franchise that was created by someone else to use nostalgia to cash in a check, oftentimes it's done wrong. However, there's been a couple times it's been done right, and those are the times we'll cover. So those are the 3 positions that you might find yourself in when you hold the nostalgia card. Now, with that being said, nostalgia is an amazing way and one of the best ways to enter the hype zone. The hype zone, if you haven't seen my previous videos, is how you get most of the world, the majority of the world, to come see your movie. It's how you bring in billions of dollars in the box office. It's how you get the majority of the world to play your video game, watch your anime, what have you. So, it is very common right now to use nostalgia. Almost everyone's doing it because there's so much content out there that has been dead for years that big corporations and production companies are getting their hands on and using nostalgia for, which is why I'm making this video, because it's being done at least 5 times a year at this point. Now, once you have nostalgia card, once you have nostalgia in the palm of your hands and you're able to use it effectively, there are several ways that it can be done. The most common is a soft reboot. A soft reboot is kind of a sequel, but kind of not a sequel, right? So they are continuing an already told story while introducing new versions of the characters. X-Men has been doing it for a while now. Soft reboots are the most common way because if someone really, really likes it, you can say, yeah, this was a whole new reboot. But if someone doesn't really like it, they can say, well, this was a sequel and the series is only going to get better from here. And you're able to throw away what people don't like and keep what people do like. The problem with soft reboots is they're oftentimes lazy and don't make much sense because they don't appreciate and respect the continuity that they are continuing off of. The second way you can cash in on nostalgia and use nostalgia is if you just do a full-on reboot. And of course, this is self-explanatory. We all know what a reboot is. And the third way is just straight up making a sequel. Even if the franchise has been dead for 10, 20 years, you can just do a direct sequel. Though most of the characters, most of the actors might be too old to play the character, it's okay. If you make a sequel using their children, it works just fine. And they've done this multiple times. Or instead of a sequel, you can do a prequel. But that kind of falls in the soft reboot in a way. You still have to keep track of the continuity so you don't mess up anything and make plot holes in the films that came before you. But it gives you a little bit more freedom with the characters. Since it is a prequel, you can take advantage of the lore that's already there and just expand on it. And if you do it right, this can create amazing emotions for people. And it makes certain things that didn't make sense in the films that came before them make more sense, because every movie, every video game, every series has plot holes. I love picking at plot holes. Every movie has so many plot holes, and a prequel, you can really take advantage of prequels, taking advantage of already created lore. Everyone did the hard work for you, and then you can just fill in those plot holes. You can legitimately improve something that was already great. And when someone sees a movie or a franchise that they already thought was perfect being improved upon, that just increases the hype and it builds the respect that they have for the creator who has taken it over or is continuing it. So a lot of this is honestly self-explanatory on how to do nostalgia right, but I really do want to talk about it. So I've already talked about the 3 positions you might find yourself in to do nostalgia and become a placeholder of the nostalgia card. And then also, I've discussed how you might actually pull it off using a soft reboot, a reboot, or a sequel, or a prequel. Now, how do you pull it off successfully? How do you do it in such a way that you're not going to have people throwing bricks through your window because you ruined their favorite character, preferably the one that has the name Han Solo, right? Or Peter Parker. I mean, we would have all been pissed if they ruined our Peter Parkers. If they ruined Andrew Garfield, I know that I would probably just be Satan incarnate himself and be very, very angry. Because, you know, Andrew Garfield is freaking awesome. I don't care what you guys have to say. Tobey Maguire rocks, but Andrew Garfield, he's amazing. Not only is he an amazing actor, but his hairdo. You just can't argue with someone who has that amazing of hair. Like, I don't know, like, handsome people make good actors. It's just a fact. No, not really. You can be really ugly and still be an amazing actor, but the chance of you being ugly and Peter Parker is just really, really low, so sorry to everyone who looks remotely like me. Speaking of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, I am only going to use one example on how to do nostalgia right. I'm only going to use one character as an example, and that is, of course, yes, you're all thinking it, William Dafoe's Green Goblin. I know, not what anyone expects, not what anyone really wants, at least I don't know, I don't care. I'm going to talk about Green Goblin, because he was nostalgia done so right. Mwah, chef's kiss, man. This guy was done right. I mean, Norman Osborn, a man who was, like, just taken over by the Green Goblin. His brain was split. He had this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing going on, and he would be almost comedic, this awesome, fun character as Norman Osborn, a very complex father, and then he would end up having to transmit into Green Goblin, not consensual, by the way. The Green Goblin never had Norman Osborn's consent. Hashtag Norman Osborn 2, because this is not right, and it should be stopped. I think it was stopped in No Way Home, so good for Peter. Good for Peter. Listen to hashtags. But anyway, in the first movie, when we see Norman Osborn, one of the greatest things about how William Dafoe played the character was he was prideful, he was strict, he was somewhat angry, but he was also very intelligent, and he had a more humane side to him. He was somewhat scared, he was somewhat unconfident, because he was terrified of losing his company. He was not this big titan, right? He was a timid man that put on a facade of power. And then, when he was split down the middle, when he took that serum and became Green Goblin, he was split directly down the middle. Imagine your most dominant side of your personality becoming its own entity, becoming its own person, and then all the negative parts of your personality and all the negative parts of your traits has its own body now. It's completely split in half. This is not good. Again, hashtag Norman Osborn 2. This is horrible stuff. You gotta feel bad for Norman Osborn, and you do, because you see the fear and the guilt and the low self-esteem that Norman has when he is not the Green Goblin. However, when he is Green Goblin, that is when he becomes truly iconic, because this guy is ruthless. This guy will turn you into a freaking skeleton, turns a bunch of people into skeletons. First time we see Green Goblin, he blows up an entire freaking military base with no remorse. He kills attempts to kill Peter Parker's girlfriend or friend, MJ. Actually, I think she was his son's girlfriend at the time, so even more ruthless, right? The guy didn't care, and he mopped the floor with Peter, not in just the first or second or third scene that they fought, but in every single frickin' scene. He beat the crap out of Spider-Man. We were terrified that Spider-Man could not beat this guy. So you hyped this villain up like hell. And just watching William Dafoe's Green Goblin force Aunt May to pray as he watched her surrounded by flames, right? Like terrifying stuff. And the beatdown he gave Peter Parker in the final battle, again, terrifying stuff. He was willing to kill children just to prove a point. And this guy just did not hold back with Peter. Watching Peter, Tobey Maguire's Peter, get the beatdown of his life, it resonated with you as a kid. It was terrifying watching your icon, your hero, just be beat down like that. And then he is finally killed off, and he was a one-time character. He was one and done, and we were okay with that because we loved the memory of him. We just loved the fact that we got such an amazing villain. And we refused to accept Andrew Garfield's versions of the Green Goblin, because yes, I just praised Andrew Garfield not too long ago, but his villains sucked. His movies were freaking horrible. I'm not gonna lie, man. They were horrible. And as far as I'm concerned, his Green Goblin is not canon. It is William Dafoe all the way, and that's how they did it right when they brought him back. So, the reason why I want to use William Dafoe as the shining example in No Way Home instead of Tobey and Andrew, because William Dafoe had more screen time, and he was a much bigger character in No Way Home than the other two Spider-Man. Not only that, but the guy refused to just come in for a quick cameo or come in and say hi. He straight up said, if I'm gonna do this thing, if I'm gonna come back, it better be fucking good. I want to bring... he just came back with dignity. He made damn sure this wasn't going to be a nostalgia grab, a cash grab. He wanted to come back with pride with his character and be proud of the character he got to play again. And also, this guy, he's 80 years old, and he fucking refused to have a stuntman. He refused to do CGI fights. This guy did his own freaking stunts. And come on, that's freaking amazing. I love fan service, don't get me wrong, but I don't ever want fan service to come at the expense of the actors. The actor's safety must come first. But if it's by the actor's choice and will and pride and passion, I admire that. That is just so many respect points for me, right? It's so amazing to see. And William Dafoe is a big reason why we left No Way Home like a bunch of giddy anime schoolgirls, right? He just brought the heat when it came to No Way Home. But how did they do him right? And how did William Dafoe make damn sure he was done right? First off, when they introduced him as Green Goblin. Obviously, you have to, but it was for a very short, brief time. We actually got to get to know Norman Osborn more in No Way Home than we got to in Tobey Maguire. So, that is, that's a huge reason right there. They expanded on the humanization of the character. They expanded on the Jekyll and Hyde persona that he had. They expanded on the character, and honestly, that is all that needs to be said. You need to bring the character back with respect, and you need to expand on the character. You can't just use them for a quick cash grab. You can't just bring them back and say, hey, here he is, and have them be the exact freaking same that they were. Because honestly, yes, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they had a little bit of character arc development in the movie, but for the most part, these guys they haven't been dead like William Dafoe's character. These guys have been alive this whole time, but yet their stories seem to be frozen, right? You ask them what crazy characters they have ever fought, and they named the same characters we've already seen. These guys have had no fights in the fucking, 20 years that they've been gone, 10 years, 8 years. They've been gone for a long time, and they haven't fought anyone since. William Dafoe actually had his character being expanded upon. His character was growing in No Way Home. And when he finally flipped into the Green Goblin, they didn't only remind us of why we were scared of this villain and why he was great, but they made it even more intimidating. The beatdown he gave Tom Holland was more gruesome than any beatdown he gave Tobey Maguire. This guy was a powerhouse. Just the scene alone made you feel like this man was powerful. This man was amazing. He was a titan. And he just mopped the floor with Peter. And then he kills Aunt May. This guy has a vendetta against Aunt May. He takes out Aunt May. Amazing. Mwah, perfect. Yeah. Give us that Green Goblin. And they did. They gave us the Green Goblin we all wanted back. And then they ended it with the perfect climax that improved on 3 characters' story arc. And this is how you do nostalgia right. You give the fans what they want, because what they want is what they had, right? When you bring back a character that's nostalgic, he's nostalgic for a reason, but you can't just have him being a frozen icon throughout the whole film. You have to develop him even further. You have to have him face struggles that the fans are aware that he might face in the future, or have already shown issues of facing or fears of facing, right? And you also have to have them struggle with things that they've already struggled with. Unless they have successfully gotten past that struggle, then you have to give them future struggles, other struggles that the fans understand with the character. It has to make sense. You can't have a guy that refused to kill for the longest time and finally had to cope with the fact that maybe, just maybe, you might have to kill here and there, and then have him come back with nostalgic bait and just killing people all over the place without a care in the world, or taking him back to where he refused to kill anybody, because those don't correlate with what we saw in the past character. Sorry, if you made, I think I swallowed a fly, and that is really weird. It's like January. Anyway, when you take a character that had to learn the lesson of maybe not everyone can survive, maybe I have to kill people here and there, but then you just have him killing willy-nilly, that means that he never actually learned his lesson. He just did a full freaking 180 and like, I'm gonna kill everybody, and it's not gonna resonate. But then if you have him refusing to kill anyone, then it's going to completely disrespect the story arc that he already went through. That's what we did not get with Green Goblin. We did not get that at all. We got everything that he once was, plus what he could become, and they gave him what he could become, and they made him exactly that. And they did it in respect and in the context of the character. Now, if you buy a franchise and you do this, then you have to study, because since you're not the creator, you're not going to have quite the same emotional connection, so you have to study the hell out of it. And it's not that hard. A lot of people study things that aren't theirs. I studied the hell out of Tekken. I studied the hell out of Dragon Ball Z. I studied the hell out of Marvel. You know, it's not that hard. If you buy rights, study the hell out of those characters, and when you finally decide to cash in with the nostalgia that you bought, you have to follow these same guidelines. Make sure that you're respecting what they once was. It's honestly that simple. Just respect what they once were and add on to it. And that's how you do nostalgia right. So yeah, I am very sorry if this was kind of a short video, not a whole lot of information in there. I am very tired. I needed an easy video to work on. This probably wasn't the right one to choose, but I chose it anyway. So with that being said, that is all I have to say for today. Please do consider liking, subscribing, maybe even sharing. It helps me out a lot. I'm a small channel. Do not get hit by a meteor. Take care of yourselves. Love your movies. Bye.